greetings, greetings. This is our king, King Clifford Jefferson, king of the English Stereotypical Church of England, now known as incorporated as the English Stereotypical Church of England, king, heirs, and successors. You're amongst the king's bench. I am your king. I am the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful. You should call him Jesus Christ. Also, I am the establisher of my ancestors who were from the House of Pennington, founded by Godfrey the Fifth Caliban Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. Our seat or headquarters lies in what we call Jersey, now called New Jersey by way of puppeteers, George Carteret and John Berkeley, which surrendered that authority back to the crown, so therefore it's formally now called Jersey. You might not want to believe that, but that's the problem. We are here again with another marvelous lesson for part 3 in regards to a title which is yet to be given, but you know it's going to take time to get to the title because it's the best one you'll ever hear. As always, I have my studio students who are being taught by Archbishop of CA, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, CA Cole Judah from the House of Murphy. We have Sister Erica Allen from the House of Allen, Sister Walker from the House of Walker, Brother Gray from the House of Gray, part himself, Brother Earl Burgess from the House of Burgess. He's soon to be bishop. Soon to be bishop. So let's give him a hand clap. He's been holding it down for a minute. You know, in spite of all the technical difficulties, he's been studious. Like I said, I always say who neglected the present concern, throws away everything he had. But in spite of all that, he still shows his fealty and allegiance. And for that, I thank you and your reward is with me. As well as Sister Gray, Brother Gray, Brother Scott from the House of Scott. We welcome you all, as well as all those who are not here at the King's Bench, but you are in the King's Bench if you're on this class and this podcast. So we thank you all. I'm pretty sure you're all caught up with the previous lessons. If you're not, I suggest you stop this one and go back and watch those two. Matter of fact, stop that and go watch the original one, because this is what the platform was set up to give you clear sight instructions. And, you know, with all things, this is a line. You know, this is going to be a line. Everyone must be accountable to answer to their king. And there are no cutting lines here. You know what I'm saying? So all those who are willing to sort of subjectivity to the truth, then follow me because I represent the truth. And with the truth, you must be a trustee, because with the truth, it must be entrusted in someone. And the truth that entrusted someone is what that truth was about. And that truth was what was that truth about? Your birthright. And your birthright is an intel estate left by your heirs and successors, which are called the grantors. And these grantors were minors who you descended down from. So in order for that intel estate to be do what we call by right of reversion and remandment back to you by way of it being disputed, you must understand that that cloud must be removed by way of the chain of title going back to the original grantor, which was the king, who I am, by way of corporation soul known as the crown. So with that, we honor you, we love you, and we hope that you are following the same pattern that's been set forth by the King's men, because as I always say, it's better you to not know this than to know this and not follow, because all will stand and judge. And with that, let's get started. Sister Allen, you can continue where you left off.
The Stamp Act of 1765 was an act of the Parliament of Great Britain, which imposed a direct tax on the British colonies in America and required that many printed materials in the colonies be produced on stamped paper produced in London, carrying an embossed revenue stamp.
Stop. Read that again. Listen to they talk. Listen to who the contract is talking about. Who they talking about? Now, remember, you got British monarchs as well, not just subjects. You got British monarchs sitting on the English throne. Great Britain is English in origin. Is assumed as the authority power here under a British monarch known as King George. As we know through the Sea Bubble Act, was a slave trader because he was a governor as well. Right? He was a governor. So if this is the monarch playing a governor role, and we know the governor's head is a government, and he's the one who appoints the officers, which were the ones of the courts, the clerks, sheriffs, etc. All right, which was an act of a de facto parliament of Great Britain, which imposed the direct taxes not on the heirs and successors, but the British colonies. in America, and we know that the British colonies are America. They're one and the same. Continue on.
The Stamp Act of 1765 was an act of the Parliament of Great Britain, which imposed a direct tax on the British colonies in America and required that many printed materials in the colonies be produced on stamped paper produced in London, carrying an embossed revenue stamp. Printed materials included documents, magazines, playing cards, newspapers, and many other types of paper used throughout the colonies. And it had to be paid in British currency, not in colonial paper money.
You hear that? Read that last sentence again.
Printed materials included legal documents, magazines, playing cards, newspapers, and many other types of paper used throughout the colonies, and it had to be paid in British currency, not in colonial paper.
Uh-oh, we got a problem here. We have a problem, Houston. Why is this very important? What is the British currency?
Pound. Pound sterling.
Read the first paragraph.
Am I continuing on?
Yes, you are.
The purpose of the tax was to pay for British military troops.
No, I'm sorry. Let me share my screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go back.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
The pound sterling, known in some contexts as the British pound, the pound or sterling, is the official currency of the United Kingdom, Jersey, the Isle of Man, Gibraltar, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands, the British Antarctic Territory, and Tristan da Cunha. It is subdivided into 100 pence, penny abbreviated. The pound sterling is the oldest currency in continuous use. Some nations that do not use the sterling also have currencies called the pound.
Okay, all right. So you hear what the pound is. We already established what a pound is. So now we want to go through the early origins of currency of America and see what they officially are. Okay? Because it said it's still in continuous use. It's going to be problems. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Now remember, New England was Massachusetts. Am I right?
Yes.
All right. Read the first paragraph here, brother, Sister Allen.
Early American currency went through several stages of development during the colonial and post-revolutionary history of the United States. John Hull was authorized by the Massachusetts legislature to make the earliest coinage of the colony, the willow, the oak, and the pine tree shilling in 1652. Since there were few coins minted in the 13 colonies that later became the United States, foreign coins like the Spanish dollar were widely circulated. Colonial governments at times issued paper money to facilitate economic activities. The British Parliament passed currency acts in 1751, 1764, and 1773 that regulated colonial paper money. During the American Revolution, the colonies became independent states, no longer subject to arbitrarily imposed monetary regulations by the British Parliament. The states began to issue paper money to pay for military expenses. The Continental Congress also issued paper money during the Revolution, known as the Continental Currency, in order to fund the war effort. Both state and continental currency depreciated rapidly, becoming, in effect, worthless by the end of the war. This depreciation was caused by the government, stemming from the printing of large amounts of currency in their effort to meet the monetary demands of the war. Additionally, British counterfeit gangs contributed further to the decreased value By its conclusion, only a few counterfeiters had been caught and preemptively hanged for the crime.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
They were hung for the crime. Now listen to what the penalty was here in New Jersey. This is all the states: Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Maryland, Massachusetts, which we just read, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Now look at this, y'all. Now, what I'm showing you, that's 100,000 pounds. Remember that 100,000 pounds, because when you read the Currency Act, when it says if you're using this money, that you would be charged 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds. It sure did.
Right? Now look the other penalty for it.
Point of interest, each state was its own sovereign state. So to have each state creating its own money it would be its own undoing. That's why they came together and became the United States. Either way, it's all feudalism to have the lawyers and attorneys and barristers convey your estate and your monies, because you still are now using that monopoly money. It just looks different. But here, case in point, I wanted to show you all. I just had to pull out of my collection of currencies. This is a note from North Carolina. I don't know if you can see it well. This is a North Carolina note. And then on the back, I have a note from South Carolina. Wow. And each one of these states printing their own money, you see how that could be a problem, right?
Because it's not uniform.
So exactly, uniform. So then what they've done to uniform their money is giving you now the American or the United States dollar with whose face on it? George Washington, Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill, etc. Because they had to become uniform, and they had support from places like France and the Vatican to help them do such a thing, causing the American Revolution, to aggregate or to usurp the English authority in the American colonies. I yield the floor.
Well said. And a great point, CA, in regards to the process, what they call counterfeiting. Because remember, you couldn't pay for anything according to the Stamp Act, and as a result of that was the result of the Currency Act of 1764. The Stamp Act came in 1765 to stop Massachusetts from passing this mess down to the other colonies, and the only ones that kept doing it was the northern and the southern colonies, in which the middle colonies didn't do it, right? So because why? Look what the penalty for counterfeiting in the middle colonies. To counterfeit was death. Y'all see that? To count, let me see if I can blow it up.
Yeah, look, I had to pull out my collection, King.
I see that. I see
you
that.
Own it.
Where is it at?
And point of interest, this is the reason why they have to keep wars going on. Because if the war stops, the money stops. The fake money stops, that is.
The fake money stops, because it's got to be financed.
It had to be fine, exactly, because according to what we just read, it said towards the end of the war, the money became, no longer any good, any value.
Yeah, remember they only had taxes to fund wars.
Wars, exactly.
That's the only way taxes used. It was called back in the day. It was called, what was that called? Give me a second. It's called colonial script money, but back then, when it was used, the practice started. We originally created it to fund wars.
Bills of credit.
For the pension crown. What was the name of that?
Bills of credit.
No, it was called.
Shit money.
Shit money, exactly. It was called shit money. And you notice when it said dealing with the Currency Act, not the Currency Act. What was it called? Talking about ships. The Stamp Act was making reference to ships. Where is it at? Early American currency.
Yeah, and so point of interest, and like they said, they're trying to inherit the rights going back to the Plantagenet Crown to be able to utilize war as a way for them to finance, to create wars, and a way for them to utilize those mechanisms for their financing. Because remember, they didn't have no money. So they were only making money based off of, like I said, creating wars.
Yeah, and charging the colonies.
And charging the colonies the taxes for it.
Yeah,
and that's what everybody was
got
upset.
fed up.
Yeah, like, hold on. Ain't no wars out here. What war are you talking about? So they had to create.
And then they got mad because under ship money, Parliament never told the House of Stewart to tax the colonies when there's not a time of war.
Exactly.
They was only done when there was a time of war. And that was done going back to the Plantagenet Crown, where we just sit it down from. So why the hell are we paying taxes and ain't no war? That's why the war started.
That's why they started.
Without representation.
There you go.
Without representation.
All right. So remember, they said they were charged £1,000 a shilling. Now let's go back to that shilling. New Jersey, 1709. New Jersey pound. The pound was the money of account of New Jersey until 1793. Initially, the British pound and some foreign currencies circulated, supplemented from 1709 by local paper money. However, although the notes were denominated in pounds, shillings, and pence, they did not have the same value as the British pound sterling or other colonial currencies, with denominations in pounds. A proclamation of Queen Anne issued in 1704 and legislated by Parliament in 1707 standardized the value of all colonial currencies at 6 colonial shillings to a full weight of Spanish miller dollars, which was in turn equivalent to 4 shillings to 6 pence sterling. See what I'm saying? So this is all under the authority of the crown of Queen Anne in New Jersey. So if that's the case, then you know you stand in England, because what would the hell would Queen Anne be over here if this wasn't England? And it had to be England if you got colonies that were being taxed. All right, so if this is the case, and knowing that we're dealing with colonies, and we know that colonies were governed under the monarch, and we know that the monarch was the grantor to the grantees, and the grantees were the ones who was supposed to be the ones that the trustees held administrators of the trust for the grantees until we became of age. But we never became an age. Why? Because we were considered wards of the state. So we never got to the age where we can handle our own estate, because the state, it means estate, which means status or political status, or estate, which means status. So the word estate, E-S-T-A, has the same word as status, means the same word as status or legal standing. Once again, the word estate, E-S-T-A, means the same word as status or standing in law. The same word. So if you have no standing in law, you have no status, therefore you have no estate. All right. So we're dealing with tender money that were ruled unconstitutional in regards to it being distributed through the colonies as a result of it being depreciated. So that means that it ain't worth nothing. Now, this was a law passed by Act of Parliament for the colonies in what they call America. But how can that be when America never existed prior to the creation of the United States of America? Because prior to that, it was just called the United Colonies. So that means that somebody in trouble, because the proclamation was created for, let's go back to it. Let's go to it originally. And this will be our main focal point. Archbishop, I'm gonna leave this demonstration up to you, Noble.
Okay. Now, once again, point of interest, brothers and sisters, they need you. And when I say they, I'm just going to say the imposters. They need you to be accomplice of this fraud. That's the reason why they pushed that paper money on our brothers and sisters and constantly got them, waving it around, making music and stuff about it. But you don't see no other so-called nationality ranting and raving about so-called the mighty dollar. Now, why is that? Well, we're about to find out. Great Britain Parliament, the Currency Act, April 19, 1764. Whereas great quantities of paper bills of credit have been created and issued in His Majesty's colonies or plantations in America. Now, remember, this is coming from out of the Parliament of Great Britain, and he's talking about America.
Hold on. Remember, it said Majesty's colonies or plantations in America.
Yeah.
You don't give a damn what you call it. You can call it a colony, a plantation. You can call it a state. You still in America because America is made up of states. So just because they didn't say states, that don't mean you ain't included in this.
And it clearly saying in His Majesty, so this says ownership.
Yes, ownership.
All right, so by virtue of acts, orders, resolutions, or votes of assembly, making and declaring such bills of credit to be legal tender and payment of money, and whereas such bills of credit have greatly depreciated in their value, by means whereof debts have been discharged with a much less value than was contracted for, to the great discouragement and prejudice of the trade and commerce of His Majesty's subjects, by occasioning confusion and dealings, and lessening credit in the said colonies or plantations, for remedy whereof may it please your most excellent Majesty, that it may be enacted and it be enacted by the King's most excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Lords spiritual and temporal, and the Commons in His present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same, that from after the first day of September 1764, no act, order, resolution, or vote of assembly in any of His Majesty's colonies or plantations in America that include the so-called states shall be made for creating or issuing any paper bills or bills of credit of any kind of denomination whatsoever, declaring such paper bills or bills of credit to be legal tender in payment of any bargains, contracts, debts, dues, or demands whatsoever, in every clause or provision which shall hereafter be inserted in any act, order, resolution, or vote of assembly, contrary to this act, shall be null and void.
I see you, Sister Walker. Go ahead and laugh.
Once again, if you got paper money, I don't care where it came from, what time frame, if it came throughout the so-called colonies, plantations, and states, it's null and void, it's bogus. And if you're using it and you're enforcing it on any English heir, that's an act of treason because it violates the Act of Religion of 1580, which says that you cannot persuade or force any English heirs to be underneath a foreign authority. And to force an English heir to utilize this fiat money is placing us under a foreign authority, which is an act of high treason.
What it said, it just said it.
It
It just said it. It says, one second, let me read it before you go, CA. It says, where is that? It said, by means whereof debts have been discharged. Let me start from it. It says, whereas great quantities of paper money, bills of credit have been created and issued in His Majesty's colonies or plantations in America by virtue of an act, order, resolution, or vote of assembly, making and declaring such bills of credit to be legal tender in payment of money. And whereas such bills of credit have greatly depreciated in their value by means whereof debts have been discharged with a much less value that was contracted for, to the great discouragement and prejudice of trade and commerce of His Majesty's subjects, by occasioning and confusing and dealings and lessening the credit in the said colonies or plantations. And for remedy whereof may it please you, most excellency Majesty, that it be enacted. So in this, it's telling you that this is our remedy. It's telling you that this remedy, this act right here, is saying that from this day forward, I don't give a damn who do it. It can be the money makers, it can be the bank, it can be the General Assembly, it can be legislative. I don't give a damn from the colonies, the states, it can be foreign. If it's under the jurisdiction of the colonies, you're forbidden to use that money.
Absolutely. Well said.
You're forbidden.
And this point of interest, this is the reason why the start of the so-called American Revolutionary War. But it gets
took place.
It's gonna get good and it's gonna get better even after we get done reading this, because once again, we're going to show you, you have to come this way for any of this to become applicable. Try to stand on this on your own. You know, we can't help you. Because remember, laws were not created for an individual right. Laws are created for a group, for a nation, for a group of people, society. So you got, today they got the heirs thinking of a capitalistic mindset. Me, I. Not once do you hear them talk about the group. Who are you so-called making all this money for? For yourself? And it's not even money. So as you see this programming that people who look like us are keeping going on with the heirs, because as you see how easy it was for us to read and present this information, you can go verify this yourself. And it's been here that long and no one else came and brought it to you.
Oh,
That means you need to question everybody in your life at this very moment.
yes, sir. And I'm bringing it to you. It's been here
It's
since
been here.
1764, and it took to me to come on the scene to bring it to you.
And a point of interest. See, they were trying to tell you that there was no real money but gold and silver and such. So I, give credit where credit. They were trying to get to this point, but no one could quite explain it in a law of statutes quite like the king and the king's bench. So, we ain't gonna throw them all out, but we understand where they were trying to go. But here's where you are.
I give them that. But like I said, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly. We got to start. Remember that the First Amendment was created for a reason: freedom of speech. They couldn't silence you for what you speaking the truth. Now you took an oath, they can silence you, and that's why we see what's been happening. People who took oath after they got too deep down into their regime, they wanted to turn back and then wanted to try to present it to the people, and it was too late. You took an oath. We didn't take no oath. Remember, our allegiance still stands going back to England. You can't throw your allegiance off.
Never.
Everybody else.
No man can change his.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to throw.
Nor can he throw it off.
Yep, no man could change his heritage or his lineage unless his power be greater than the great God. So, you are what your ancestors and your forefathers were, without a doubt or contradiction.
Yes, sir. Archbishop, can you send Brother Earl of Burgess another email to his iMessage? Because his computer keeps overheating. Is that possible?
It's the same email. It's the same link. It's not going to be a new one. To tell him to keep going to his email. He's going to have to get a new computer or something. Got to upgrade.
Okay.
So here you can see it's explained to you. It's written that they were using the monopoly money, and they still continue to do so. And all those who use it with them are complicit.
And point of interest, you know why? Because today people are listed as so-called United States citizens. So they had to have something for these folks, and especially if they're claiming themselves to be underneath their protection.
Because remember, you need finances to fund a nation.
Yeah, you got to give them something.
It's like a monopoly. You got funny money for a funny government. Funny money for a funny government. This shit for real. They created a real live monopoly.
Real live.
What they call it? Trading places.
Trading places, exactly.
The same thing they were talking about in the movie Eddie Murphy is the same thing we talking about now. It was the Scottish going against the original Asiatics from the ghetto. And you seen that in McDonald's versus McDowell's.
Yeah.
And McDowell's he didn't give a damn long as he got something out of there. He just wanted to be rich. You know what I'm saying? And the same way with the Soul Glow. He just wanted to be rich.
Yeah.
And McDonald's only got it because he was linked to the Scottish.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He had his own
They were throwing it right there in our face.
He was a corporation soul.
He
wasn't no aggregate. He was a corporation soul.
But look, a point of interest, King. Remember, it's how shocking will it be for our people to have to transform their commercial mind, living in a commercial mindset, in a commercial estate, over to a de jure way of thinking, a de jure estate. Your inheritance has to do with the land, not the commerce, not the commerce and stuff. So if you're not back to your own agrarian mind state, you won't know what to do with the land anyway.
Exactly.
You won't be able to produce good fruit from the yield.
Absolutely. And point of venture, I'm glad you said that. And that's why when the king iterated about we don't have time, we in a race. We are literally in a race against time. And that's why we choose or we call for the 144,000 who are doing the work, because, you want the best. This is about the preservation of a people, of the English people. So we want the best, the ones who went through the fire and coming out unscathed. That's us. If you made your way here to the King's Bench, then
Hey, not many people come.
Yeah, remember the King's Bench is the way to get to the House of Lords. At the King's
Bench, that don't mean you're gonna be in a position as a trustee. Because if you do, you got to speak like I speak.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no time. Hold on, let me look this up. Ain't none of that. You got to be able to drop on a dime. That means competent. You got to be competent. If you're talking everything else but English, then you are not competent. And they already know already. Why? Because they are trustees. They already know who the beneficiary is in lieu of the administration of their estate. But they can't give it to you. Why? Because they already broke the contract.
Yep.
What would make them go back to the no contract? Then you would be like, look, sir, I got this confessed. I stole your land. And I got to give it back to you. Please don't take me to jail. You think they're going to do that? They're going to be like, hell, if I get caught, I get caught.
Yeah.
That's how they're dealing with that.
Yeah, they'd rather die.
They have no remedy outside of us. As I said, it's death. Like Jesus said, when there's the Caesars, and when there's a God was God. You either live or you die. You chose your punishment.
The minute you start messing with this funny money, you chose with your fate.
You chose it.
And that's why they need our brothers and sisters to play with this stuff too. Because you see, like they say, more money, more problems.
More problems.
You see constantly get what happened. They
get
robbed, killed, extorted.
Because
it's not based off of real. It's not of God.
Point of interest, Archbishop. So here now you're dealing with a new coin and currency. You're dealing with a new frame of modern day transfer of energies. And you have a higher chance of holding your yield or presenting your yield back to a de jure fold of your hereditaments, because you don't, you say I hustle for my last name. So you have now a chance to, with all your work and effort that you put out in the commercial world, to bring that back into a tangible reality, entail, and park it in your own intel estate, as it were. But it's under your surname, under your monarchical line. That's why as students under the Clifford's Inn, under the King's Bench, Clifford's Inn gives you the law aspect. The King's Bench gives you the historical, like you said, inner temporal, outer temporal. So knowing this will automatically, I say, make you the smartest person in the room, whatever room you're in.
Whatever room you're in, whatever the room. You're a Lord. You become a Lord again. You can stop anybody at any time. Hold up. There's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Something ain't adding up. You don't know what to look for if you don't know it's there. When you know it's there, you already look for it. You can talk all day, and if you don't hit it, you might as well shut up. You didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Because you have started the process of elimination. I don't need all this. I don't need all that. That was created to cover up the truth. And how we know it, Archbishop Gordon Part 2. Any more inquiries before we go on? Sister Allen took her smile off her face, and Sister Walker took her smile off her face since we've been playing this video. That's beautiful.
Brother Scott, Brother Gray, any questions or anything? Any input?
Not so far. I'm tracking. The information is accurate.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. When y'all only been on this mug for a couple of days, couple of times, and now y'all ain't got no questions. That shows you that your DNA is speeding up quicker. You're able to grasp now. You know what I'm saying? Because that gap, if somebody else came to you and tried to present this information to you, you'd be all day with it. Because they wouldn't know how to break it down. I'm giving it into a format where you cannot get lost. Now, the only way you get lost if you go else listen to somebody else. And then that'll take you off your destination. That becomes the fork in the road. So what are you gonna do? Keep going? No, you go back and get that instruction where you got before you got lost. And that's just why you're found now, because now you know the instructions. So when you go back out to that path, there's no way in hell you get lost, because you got that manual with you right now. And anybody come to try to take you off your path. Why? Because everywhere you step is your path.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere you go, nigga, I'm on the King's land.
North,
You
south,
can't
east,
confine
west.
me to a house. You can't confine me to a car. You can't confine me to a municipality. You can't confine me to a county. You can't even confine me to a state. Damn it, you can't even confine me to a continent, because we everywhere. Exactly. All right, that's how we talk. And you can't say nothing because you wasn't there. Why? Because I'm talking time immemorial. You wasn't there in time immemorial. And I'm only going back to 1189. Tell me something about 1189 if you can. Who was the monarch then? See, that's where you got to come off. It shuts them up. Mm-hmm. All right. Go ahead, Archbishop.
All right. Article 2. And whereas the great quantities of paper bills or bills of credit, which are now actually in circulation and currency in several colonies or plantations in America, currency in several colonies or plantations in America, emitted in pursuance of acts of assembly, declaring such bills a legal tender, make it highly expedient that the conditions and terms upon which such bills have been emitted shall not be varied or prolonged, so as to continue the legal tender thereof beyond the terms respectively fixed by such acts for calling in and discharging such bills, be it therefore enacted by the authority aforesaid, that every act, order, resolution, or vote of assembly in any of the said colonies or plantations, including the states, which shall be made to prolong the legal tender of any paper bills or bills of credit, which are now subsisting and current in any of the said colonies or plantations in America, including states, beyond the times fixed for the calling in, sinking, and discharging of such paper bills or bills of credit shall be null and void.
There you go. So they telling you, if you decide to make something after this act, they're null and void. And that's from the legislation. Hell with the banks. The legislation, if you allow for a bank to create money, funding money, is null and void.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Who's in charge over here? King? Lee, you mean it's been here the whole time?
It's the whole time, bro. It's been preserved for me, the king, because this was put in effect by a king, King George III, 1764, and then he passed it off to the suckers.
1764.
Then he gave it away in 1783. He left all that power and authority right here in a charter. That's why 16.1-28 clearly said, right state under charters of Great Britain saved from repeal. Yep. An act to incorporate trustees of religious societies. An act created for trustees of religious societies in lieu of property held in civil corporations and corporations in place thereof. That's powerful. That's why we need trustees, because there's a grant for grantees who are the beneficiaries who have not been given their assets based off the trustees who have been put in place.
Exactly.
So as a result of that, we have to incorporate ourselves under authority as a religious society and then appoint trustees as a religious society to deal with the estates that were supposed to be passed by way of operational law by these trustees that we put in place to look over our estate and do administering it. Being that they didn't do that, our estate had become extinct. Being that it's extinct, we have the authority to be resurrected in lieu of what we call a corporation, and then transform the powers of the latter corporation into the former corporation, which is called conveyance through Title 16 under Title 46, which is conveyance of property rights. Man, I'm bad. I'm bad. And I'm just talking. I can take you to a statue.
The impact that is, like you said, energy don't die. It just transfers or transforms. And the power that we have,
I'll from the head. Hold out. Let's make it happen. If we ain't gonna get into this, we'll take your captain. You know what I'm saying? Word is born. That's how we do it. I can come old school, new school, no school rule. Either
Hey,
way.
hey, look, the king is like 6'3", 6'4", y'all. I'm trying to tell you, man. Yeah, Kurt.
Yes, sir. And when I get my locks back attached, it's gonna be over. I'm ready. I'm almost there, y'all. I'm almost there.
Oh yeah, you there? Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
almost
you
there.
ready by the
You know what I'm
summertime.
saying? You see my things coming. I can also toilet now. I also toilet. I'm getting there, Archbishop. Look out. Look out. And for all those who's going to join the King's Bench, even though we require all our officers to have locks, if you try and you can't get it, it's understandable. It's understandable. We're not gonna hold you back because you can't get locks. Because those who got locks can't demonstrate what we're doing. Know what I'm saying? So long as you can walk the walk, talk the talk, and fill the shoes, I'm comfortable. I gotta trust you.
Yeah, I gotta trust you. Yeah.
I have to be able to trust you in regards to being a minister of an intelligent state that's supposed to pass by operation of law. And if you don't know the law, then how can the law operate?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's go on. Part 3.
This is part 3, one of the most important parts. Pay attention. 3, and be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid, that if any governor or commander-in-chief for the time being in all or any of the said colonies or plantations, including the states, shall from and after the said first day of September 1764, give his assent to any act or order of the assembly contrary to the true intent and meaning of this act. Every such governor or commander-in-chief shall, for every—
Read that again, yo. I said every such governor, yo. Wow, it said every, not just that one, but every governor.
Every such governor or commander-in-chief. Remember, that's police officers, anybody call themselves fire departments, all those folks. For every such offense, forfeit and pay the sum of 1,000 pounds.
Stop. Now, when you looked at the violation for, let's go back there.
And see, let's see what's the equivalent of 1,000 pounds today in a dollar.
What it said, New Jersey, money, not pound. Let's go back here. Where was that at? Right here.
Sterling pound.
You said about 1,300 so-called US dollars.
Now, it says 1,000 pounds, right? This is New Jersey. 1,000 pounds. Not just 1,000 pounds.
100,000 pound right there.
That's 100. What it said? That's 100,000. My bad.
Yeah, that's 100,000 pounds.
All right. Well, damn, that's even good. We charge more than that. All right, go ahead.
Wait. Okay. For every such offense, forfeit and pay the sum of 1,000 pounds. Now it says for every such offense, forfeit and pay the sum of 1,000 pounds, and shall be immediately dismissed from his government and forever after rendered incapable of any public office or place of trust.
Forever.
Forever.
That's anybody. If you hold an office, you hold a trust.
So
if you hold a franchise, you hold a trust.
All these people charging fee waivers and stuff to be heard in court.
No, the fee waiver is fine because that's what you need, the fee waiver. But anybody who's charging a fee and they want that dollar, that's the act of treason. Get the act of treason there. You don't supposed to be in no office of trust because remember, the United States is a trust company.
Yes, sir.
And the main ones dealing with what? Fiat.
Fiat. Well said, Archbishop. So that means that being that the governor was appointed commander-in-chief of the government, and he who appoints the officers to run their government, which are officers or franchise, and it takes money to run a nation. So I mean, every office or franchise appointed by the governor who's using legal tender to fund the government is going to damn jail.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it was already edged in the law what you should be using over here. But all that's sitting in lockup right now, gold and silver.
And you know why? Because there were no heirs here. They got to hold it on to the heirs. And you think about, this is the act of parliament. This is an act of, so this is the true government speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's
go ahead, Archbishop.
4, provided always that nothing in this act shall extend to, alter, or repeal an act passed in the 24th year of the reign of His late Majesty King George II, entitled an act to regulate and restrain paper bills of credit in His Majesty's colonies or plantations of Rhode Island and Providence plantations, Connecticut, the Massachusetts Bay, and New Hampshire in America, and to prevent the same being legal tenders and payments of money. 5, provided also that nothing herein contained shall extend or be construed to extend to make any of the bills now subsisting in any of the said colonies a legal tender.
So that means from that day, from henceforth on, I don't give a damn what you choose to call it, you are not to be creating legal tender, because the Parliament dissolved it in 1765. Why? Because the Stamp Act in 1764. I mean, I'm sorry, 1764, and as a result of that, you broke it, came the Stamp Act in 1765. And as a result of that Stamp Act, it caused Revolutionary War. Why? Because lawyers didn't want to pay that fiat.
They didn't want to pay that fiat.
They didn't want to pay it. So that's the reason why they broke away from the inner and middle outer temple, because the only way you can deal with property is by we go to religious societies. So they moved from religious society. There was no such thing as a state separates the church and state. It was just a church state, and that church state was the Church of England.
Absolutely.
And the Church of England was through the reform of the English Church of England. And this is the reason why we had to reincorporate at the English Temple Church of England, which encompasses the inner, middle, and outer temple, which you are in now. You're in the middle temple. It consisted of the inner, middle, outer temple, but you haven't been given the authority to go out into the outer temple, because the world is our temple.
Exactly.
It's all of ours.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But you can't deal with the world until you deal with yourself. The world is the Hellcat. That's where we got to go out and fix. And you can't fix it if you don't know how to maintain it. And you can't know how to maintain it if you don't know the authority to maintain it. There's laws governing the maintenance of something. You know, if you don't know how to use a hedge clipper and you go out there, you cut the damn tree down. You know what I'm saying? You don't know how to hammer a nail, the house ain't gonna be stable. So we need official officers to understand the capacity in lieu of the authority and power granted you by the charters under 60-1-28, which is an act to incorporate trustees of religious society, which you are now a part of. So in regards to that religious society that you're now a part of, it's your obligation as a member, in lieu of your heirs and successors who are beneficiaries, to become a trustee on behalf of the operation of law that's been put in place to transfer and the conveyance of that estate to your offspring, which will become the beneficiaries, which is everyone's obligation here as a member of the temple. Because if you're not, then you might as well keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Because when that estate transfer and that and the assets start being conveyed to the heirs and successors, you will not be getting a damn thing. So believe me, it might look like we're not as prominent as you can see the professionals doing, but best believe me, this is professional. What we're talking here.
It's the highest of the high.
This is professional talk right here. So don't get in school. You take what we're talking in the court of law versus what a lawyer talking in the court of law and see who will come out on top. It'll be us. Because a lawyer can't open his mouth in a common law courtroom. Can't do it. Because there's only one common law in here in the what you call America versus Smith versus Alabama. And that's the common law of England. Anything contrary to that is null and void. So with that, I'm pretty sure everybody needs to look at their faces first. Where's Sister there you go, Brother Murphy, where's Sister Walker? There you go. That's who I want to see. The brothers, I'm used to y'all. I just like seeing the sisters' faces, you know, because it's their obligation to raise those trustees. You know what I'm saying? We trusted in y'all to raise these heirs, to protect their king. Because remember, it has to pass on by operation of law. And we ain't talking about family, blood-born. This is what we call baptismal blood. You are being baptized with the holy blood. And the only way that can work is that you're doing what I asked you to do. It might not seem like it's working. Hell, at times I didn't think the shit was gonna work. But look at where we at now. It just wasn't my time yet, but now it's my time, and I come to take back mine. But with that, I need trustees because I see you all out as missioners of my brothers and sisters who are all the children of God. And like I said, there's a small ass hole in the fence.
Small.
So and we got a whole bunch of sheep. So some of them ain't gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure we put the attack dogs on them. And I'm not calling y'all dogs. I'm just calling y'all. You know what I mean when I say
Your officers.
putting the dogs on them. I'm talking about y'all.
The true officers, the true
Yes,
law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
At point of entry, you have to take your position very serious. You know how these alphabet agencies and the military operate. You have to take yours just as serious as they take theirs.
Yes.
Because without you, they can't exist. You
Yeah.
are the reason why they have the ability to function out here. Like we had read, it said without English heirs, everything will fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And
It'll fall apart.
So we have to, be stern and put our foot down and don't budge. And like the king says, to stay on English history. I mean, Albion history composes of England because England is Albion. But stay on that. Don't entertain no one else's conversations, especially if their conversations are not trying to bring themselves back home. If their conversations are trying to bring you outside the house, stay away from it.
Stay away from it.
They're trying
because
to
remember,
open you up.
Go ahead, Archbishop.
Yeah, they're trying to open you up to disarm you. And last thing you want to do is be disarmed and not being able to rebut something that you already know the answer to, because then it's gonna the integrity of what you're standing for is going to be now start being diminished.
Yes, and as our bishop said, you got to be careful about the language people use to draw you into a conversation. Because if you accept the conversation, then it's like you giving up. It's just like, well, hell, let's fight hand in hand when you got swords. Nah, I'm fighting with my sword. I don't want no punches, nothing. I'm not fighting. I'm 50 years old. I'm shooting. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you the rules of engagement is you're not going to draw me in to your kind of fight. This is how I was trained to fight. I don't know that type of fight. I'm only going to use the fighting tools that I know. So if you can't fight like I fight, then you got problems.
So, and to qualify what the king and archbishop are saying is a lot of people will bring you into religious conversations.
Exactly.
Oh, this is not following Islam or this. Listen, right now, it's the preceding law that governs you is English law, which is inherited in American modern society. That's it. That's all. Okay. So this is not about a religious context as far as your actual applicable law. You are religious freedom is warranted anywhere. You have religious freedom. Shit, Genghis Khan gave you religious freedom as long as you swore allegiance. But the point is don't let people pull you off your square when it comes to this knowledge, because this is the applicable knowledge for your salvation. But a lot of people will try to pull you into their mode of understanding rather than qualifying the knowledge that you hear here. So remain here in your study and your conversation that precedes you.
And I got one rebuttal for everything you just said. Religion Act of 1580.
Exactly.
You want to talk about religion? You show me where your religion measures up to the Religion Act of 1580, which means that no act will deter me from the Church of England to Rome or any foreign state, or else it's treason. Now, you show me some legislative law that protects what you say believe in regard to religion.
And I'm glad you said that, King. And point of interest, anyone who's trying to hold that conversation with you, they're committing treason. You cannot persuade an English subject. So even holding those conversations about those different religions, that's an act of war. Don't hold those conversations. Our religion is English history and English law.
Yeah, and it's not prejudice.
Buddha, Allah, all of those different foreign gods, we're not saying they don't exist, but they don't exist here in the English church.
Yeah, and you can't impose them on the English church. To do that would be treason. You know what I'm saying? So you got already, your law is already etched in stone. He said, didn't I say it's written in your law?
Exactly.
If it's written, then the only thing you got to read it. And when you read it, you understand it. And once you understand it, you apply it. Once you apply it, it comes to life.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And once you come to life, then you're truly living that what they call the resurrection.
And
That's the resurrection. And with
that's
that,
why make sure you're not, there's no English heirs, because if you're alive, you can be resurrected.
you can be resurrected. You know what I'm saying? So I love you all. Today was a marvelous lesson, and I just can't wait till it's aired because it's going to put a lot of people and humble a lot of people in regards to their podcasts that they're saying that are beneficial to the people, but yet you got to pay money for it.
Exactly.
How is it beneficial to me when you tell me I got to pay money and I'm just reading right now? It's a violation of law.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brother Esquire, you're back. That's good, brother. Sorry about the difficulties you're having with your communication, but like I said, all is well. You know, like I said, your fealty and your stewardship is outstanding, and you know, you call me every day and make sure I'm all right. You know, and I really appreciate that, bro. So don't worry about it. You can't ignore your present concern, and you can't fix something that you have no control over. And like I said, everything is energy distorted. You know, so the fact that the TV won't log on or your communication won't connect, we're connected. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't got nothing to worry about. You know, as well as everybody else sitting on this panel. From the smiles on your faces, by the understanding that you get by way of your smiles, shows me that you are pleased with what's brought forth before you as being your king. And I'm pretty sure that the guidance that you received from your Archbishop and CA in regards to what was given to them in lieu of information and informative information by their king, that all is being accepted and full stride and full mode. And I'm pretty sure that if you take heed to it, you'll be trustees in no time, you know, because we are doing some things internally right now in regards to giving stability to argue these matters in regards to trustees in the court of law, you know, and as being members of the King's Bench, you have the right as members of the King's Bench in lieu of trusteeship, in lieu of an intel state that belongs to your beneficiary, which is your heirs and successors, in regards to the property that exists on the King's land. And if it's on the King's land, it's protected by the crown. And if it's protected by the crown, it's protected by me, because I am the crown, be a corporation soul. And with that, I love you all. Say peace and love. Y'all continue to grow amongst yourselves. And I expect to call back in an hour or so, and I know y'all still probably be on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how y'all do. But it's just great to know that my words are not going void. And with that, I'm about to relax, take a shower, and go walk my dog. Archbishop, last word.
I want to do this last part. It's still dealing with the currency act. So, because I had to look for this, everybody, because once again, they're not going to tell you certain things about that currency act, as you see from how we have revealed from the Avalon project. But I'm going to read this real quick to show y'all that it's still in effect.
You understand my screen?
All right, I got it up. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Currency Act of 1764, and this says the Royal Colony of South Carolina. Now remember, like it said.
Hold on. Before you say that, South Carolina 1740 Act in regards to slavery said they enslaved the Berbers.
Exactly.
This is the 1740. Now this is 1760. All right, go ahead.
Yep, 24 years later. So French and Indian War. I need everybody mute their phone or mute their stuff if they got background noise. All right, so it said the French and Indian War represented the decisive turning point in British colonial relations. The Treaty of Paris in 1763 ratified Britain's undisputed control of the seas and shipping trade, as well as the sovereignty over much of the North American continent east of the Mississippi River, including French Canada. But a steep price accompanied the fruits of total victory. The British government had borrowed heavily, move this out of the way, had borrowed heavily from British and Dutch bankers to finance the war. And as a consequence, the national debt almost doubled from 75 million pounds in 1754 to 133 million pounds in 1763. In order to address this onerous liability, British officials turned to larger import duties on enumerated goods like sugar and tobacco, along with a series of high excise sales taxes on goods such as salt, beer, and spirits. This taxation strategy tended to burden consumers disproportionately. Remember, they're calling them consumers disproportionately. In addition, government bureaucracy expanded in order to collect the needed revenue. As the number of royal officials more than doubled, Parliament delegated new legal administrative authority to them. Thus, even as the British subjects lauded their preeminent position in the world, they shaft over the weight of increased debts and tightened government controls. Starting good from here. Given Britain's exertions on North American continent for the sake of colonial security, both ministers and members of Parliament determined that the colonies were obligated to share the cost of the empire, but the war exposed the weakness of British administrative control in the colonies on various fronts. In 1764, Parliament passed the Currency Act, which banned the use of paper money as legal tender in all colonies. British merchants had asked for relief from the depreciated currency brought by deficit financing in Virginia. The act represented an effort to wrest control of monetary policy from colonial assemblies. The colonies faced a chronic shortage of hard money, which was being sent across the Atlantic to pay debts in England. To meet the shortage, they resorted to issuing their own paper money. British creditors, however, feared payment in such a depreciated currency. To alleviate their fears, Parliament of 1751 had forbidden the New England colonies to make their currency legal tender. Now, Greenville extended the prohibition to all the colonies. The result was a decline in the value of the existing paper money since nobody was obligated to accept it in the payment of debts. Remember, even being paid today, they pay you in so-called fiat. You don't have to accept that. You only accept it because you don't know any difference. Let's continue. The deflationary impact of the Currency Act, combined with new duties and stricter enforcement, delivered a severe shock to a colonial economy already suffering a post-war business decline. All right, so let me go ahead and go down to this part. The colonies suffered a shorter currency with which to conduct trade. There was no gold or silver mines, and currency could only be attained through trade as regulated by Great Britain. Many of the colonies felt no alternative to printing their own paper money in the form of bills of credit. But because there was no common regulations, and in fact, no standard value on which to base the notes, confusion ensued, like CA was saying about the different monies that each states were printing. The notes were issued by land banks or loan offices, which based the value of mortgaged land. Some notes paid interest, others did not. Some could be used only for purchase and not to repay debt. Some were issued only for public debts and could not be used in private transactions. There was no standard value common to all of the colonies. British merchant creditors were very uncomfortable with this system, not only because of the obvious complexity, but because of the rapid depreciation of the notes due to regular fluctuations in the colonial economy, like today. On September 1st, 1764, Parliament passed the Currency Act, effectively assuming control of the colonial currency system. The act prohibited the issue of new bills, reissue of existing currency. Parliament favored the hard currency system based on the pound sterling, but was not inclined to regulate the colonial bills. Rather, they simply abolished them.
Wow.
The colonies protested vehemently against this. They suffered a trade deficit with Great Britain to begin with and argued with the shortage of hard capital will further exacerbate the situation. Another provision of the Currency Act established what amounted to a superior vice admiralty court. We're going to talk about this shortly. At the call of naval commanders who wished to assure that persons suspected of smuggling or other violations of the custom laws would receive a hearing favorable to the British and not the colonial interest. Here it is. This act was not repealed prior to the American Revolution. The Currency Act.
Never repealed, y'all.
Never repealed. It had very dire consequences for both North Carolina and South Carolina, both of whose economies were already shaky. The Currency Act was therefore a great hardship to trade within and without the colonies, an equally important proof that the British government put the interest of mother country merchants ahead of theirs.
Ahead of theirs. There you go. Well said, Archbishop.
Great, grand showing, Archbishop. Now, is it not awesome that I just showed you one of North Carolina and one of South Carolina? I didn't have one from New Jersey. I didn't have one. The same two states you just read. Paper monies
that's what my people is from Carolinas. So, and, it's made easier sense for me to be able to put all that together after I read that. Now, we talked about superior vice admiralty court. That would be considered what we call Supreme Court today in the United States jurisdiction. Vice admiralty court. Vice admiralty court were juryless courts located in British colonies that were granted jurisdiction over local legal matters related to maritime activities such as disputes between merchants and seamen. Now remember, we're not merchants nor seamen, so we shouldn't be in there. American colonies. American maritime activity had been primarily self-regulated in the early to mid 1600s. Smaller maritime issues were settled at court in local jurisdictions prior to the establishment of courts that specialize in admiralty. In the colony of Massachusetts Bay, for instance, a maritime code to specialize in maritime legislation was created in 1674. The Court of Assistance was established to determine all cases of admiralty. Now I'm going to skip down a lot of this, read the rest of it in your own time. Where I wanted to get to was right here. American Revolution. In the early years of the American Revolution, the British Parliament increased the power of vice admiralty courts throughout the colonies to regulate maritime activities and combat smuggling. 1764 Revenue Act, known as the Sugar Act, established a so-called super vice admiralty court in Halifax, Nova Scotia, provided over by the Crown appointed judge. The first of which was a British jurist and later governor of Barbados, Dr. William Spry. The court was to have jurisdiction over all of America, with legislation empowering custom officials to take seizures in ships to either a common law court ruled over by a jury or the new vice admiralty court. However, the court in Nova Scotia lost its utility fairly quickly, not only because of its distance from the centers of commerce and trade in the colonies, but because the cold weather made it difficult to travel. Therefore, in spring 1768, the court in Halifax was abolished and Parliament authorized vice admiralty courts in Boston, Charleston, and Philadelphia. These courts held sessions heard without juries, with the burden of proof being on the accused instead of on the officers who seized their property. Much of the time, vessels were seized by the Crown on a weak evidence. The courts also generally only tried Americans, with British accused of violating trade legislation being heard by juries in common law courts.
Wow.
Okay, now down here, where we get to, okay, here. It says, when the American Revolutionary began and the British court system effectively collapsed in America, the Continental Congress debated whether or not admiralty jurisdiction should be returned to the regular court system, or if each state should form its own admiralty court. State admiralty courts were established from 1776 onward in all the states, the first of which being in Connecticut, Boston, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Virginia. However, only a handful of these courts actually allow for jury trials and appeals to Congress. Eventually, the American Constitution formed in 1789 vested admiralty jurisdiction in federal district courts.
All district courts.
Remember when we read regarding how the King's bench powers were transferred into the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania?
The Senate.
What they're doing here is showing you that they transferred the powers of the British Vice Admiralty Court into the United States court system.
Yes, district court.
The United States Admiralty Maritime Court System is still the British Admiral Maritime Court System.
And the courts you still go to, even in your municipalities and counties, or Admiral
Maritime Court Systems. Exactly.
You have a bench trial. That's called a bench hearing. A bench hearing is a pleading court, which means that you don't have a right to a trial by jury because you plead into the mercy of the jurisdiction of the court.
The court.
All right. So there y'all have it. King's Bench, student trees, all those who are viewing on their own particular phones, computers. There you have it. You don't own nothing. You will not own nothing if you're not an English heir. You are obligated to understand, implement, and protect your estate. And the only way you can do that is become a trustee. As being the trustee, you must have a grant. And to have a grant, you must have a grantor. To have a grantor, to give you an estate, which is land, the land must be allodial. And the only way the land can be allodial, it's being the king. And for the laws to be governing under the king, you must have a system of a government that functions under a king. And there you have it under 61-28 and 61-4, which are the powers of your government instilled in powers and by way of corporations in place thereof. So we, as your trustees of the English Church Church, incorporated as the English Church Church, King, heir, and successors, all of you have an obligation, and I trust that you will fulfill that obligation as a trustee to protect the estate and the kingdom in which your estate exists on for your heirs and successors, which was left intel, which only passes by operation of law. But it will continue to be its street if you don't take your place in regards to the operation of law, in regards to administering the state as a trustee, which I trust you will do future lessons. So with that, I love you all. I wish the best for you. Study these videos because I'm telling you, they're full of power, and I'm not going to allow you to implement and facilitate that power if we're not studying these lessons. So many are called, but few are chosen, as we continue to say. So with that, I come and greet you as I meet you, and I leave all other remarks to Archbishop and CA. Greetings, brothers and sisters. I love you all. Sister Erica, Sister Walker. I said it right, yeah. Sister Erica, Sister Walker, Brother Gray, Brother Scott, Harold, CA, and Archbishop Murphy. I love you all, and I'll see you when I see you.
Peace and love, King. Peace and love, everyone.
Well, there you have it, brothers and sisters, from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. Another well brought, thought out lesson for the King's Bench to instill to the heirs out here within the world that we call so-called America or planet Earth. We have lost this information because our ancestors had to do what they had to do to stay alive. But now that we're no longer having to fight that type of battle, the only battle that we need to fight now is letting go of this modern mindset and going back to the thinking of our ancient ancestors, like the messengers who came before us have already tried to tell us and remind us. And it is only that what you're submitting to that truth is when you're going to now begin that the anointing that you deserve, so that way you can go out here into the world and start teaching this to the lost English heirs, as well as the so-called denizens who have been portraying themselves to be us, and they are not us. They are just trustees who have been in the position for far too long, benefiting off of something that hasn't been theirs. So with that being said, you already see that we can't use funny money. Even though we've been using it, we were forced to use it based off of ignorance and the people at the time not knowing that it's not real. But now that we know that it's not real, it's not based off of anything besides human chattel slavery, aka real estate. You have to get out. Otherwise, that is making you part of the fraud, which means that you're going to suffer the consequences as well. There's no ignorance. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And we see what happens when you try to play that card. You still suffer. So this is the only way back to be able to utilize that currency act that you see that's only for His Majesty's subjects. And if you don't claim yourself to be a subject of the Kingdom of England, you can't use it, and therefore you must use what they have provided for you because they have made you a public citizen as a so-called United States citizen. So only way for you to be considered a private citizen, you must be those people that came prior to the so-called creation of the colonies, which were the English. So I love you, brothers and sisters. I know this work is daunting. It can be, especially when you're trying to teach it to people around you. But at the end of the day, let your physical representation be the message that you want them to hear. Because, sometimes just by trying to speak to them, it goes in one ear and out the other, or it can create conflict. And next thing you know, now you have a physical battle that you have to deal with, which you shouldn't have to deal with. It's better just to wipe your hands and walk away. It's going to be easier for you as you continue to progress in degrees for you to accept that understanding. In the meantime, I know it's going to be hard because it's like I said, this path is a lonely path until you meet the rest of us. So I'll digress and I'll leave the rest of the closing to C.A. Murphy from the House of Murphy, as well to our sisters from their respective houses, as well to our brothers who can give a closing.
Greetings. Thank you, Archbishop. Whew, what a marvelous lesson, I'm telling you. We went from, the history of the Iberian Kingdom, Tunis, Spanish, France, Louisiana, on into the American colonies and modern day statutes. What a journey. It is always beautiful to commune with like minds. When I think of the story of Jesus, when his mother was called, and he said, "Tell my mom I'm with my people who are about my, who share in the same cause." And, the greatest time to speak to the world about what's truly in my heart is here on the King's Bench. So I'm honored to share that with you all, the King, Archbishop, House of Gray, House of Scott, House of Walker, House of Allen, House of Burgess. You know, we may be pioneers in the forefront of this knowledge, but I assure you that when the world catches up, especially the citizens in the modern day Americas, what they say, it's going to be hell to pay. It's going to be hell to pay when people figure this information out on a mass scale. Because, you know, the anchor babies, the denizens, you know, a lot of people have been claiming authority over your estate erroneously. And be that as it may, you know, our rights held are, you know, like they said, it's the burden of the proof is now on the defendant more so than the plaintiff, because, you know, we're having to defend our ancestral claim, our heirship. But it's been here the whole time. The statutes, the law that protect us have been here the whole time under the guise of trusteeship in lieu of the reformation of the church. So what a glorious day to recognize these statutes and laws that have been here before us. I trust that everyone gathered their own interpretation of these statutes, these facts, and that we'll continue to commune and build upon that. So I give honor and to all of those in attendance, and I leave the floor to my brothers and sisters from their respective houses. I love you all. I greet you as I met you in peace, love, and I'm sure that, you know, we have a lot more work to do, but it's such a beautiful journey. I enjoy the studentry, so I yield the floor. With that being said,
Well
peace and
said,
love.
CA. Well said, Noble.
Greetings, everyone. This is Lady Allen from the House of Allen. Brother Murphy did say something earlier about us being pioneers to something so vast, and to see how our people continuously turned a blind eye to our vast estate and things that are owed to us to this very day. It is an honor to sit up here. I'm telling you, this weight is heavy by no means, but I continue to carry the torch, and I continue to educate my people until the light finally comes on, you know, as to what we're actually showing them. And if we look around, our bench is growing, and I thank everyone that's slowly gravitating toward our ideology, which isn't an ideology, it's actual truth, stored in our law and history. And as we carefully sift through all of this information, be it known that we are here, we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue teaching this information to you until we have gotten all the numbers up. Thank you.
Well said, Sister Erica Allen from the House of Allen.
Said.
And like you said, hearing it from the sisters, the mothers, you know, is like I keep telling, like tell CA as well as the King, man, it's probably one of the best feelings in the world right now. Especially you see how, you know, a lot of our lost sisters, and you know, are, and how they not listening to the elders. So to be able to have y'all up here and bring the wisdom that you have, you know, it just comforts me and lets me know that, you know, we go make it. We go make it.
Greetings. This is Sister Walker from the Noble House of Walker. And this lesson truly touched my heart. It truly touched my heart. I took about 10 pages of notes. And, you know, we, like Brother Murphy did say that, you know, that they tried to tell us, you know, all debt can only be paid in gold and silver. But now we have the Currency Act of April 19th, 1764 to really back it up. And I actually was very familiar with the Stamp Act, but I never went and researched the Currency Act. So to have these concrete laws to go back and review and to put it in their face, it's major. And all these laws, the quiet title, and certainly we've all heard a quiet title if you own property. but to now execute a quiet title with these laws to back it, it's irrefutable, you know, and you know, all these acts that have already been here, and to finally see, because actually, you know, that's why they had to go to the states, so they could kind of try to get away from these acts.
Exactly.
Because, you know, it said colony, you know, but if you actually read a lot of these state laws, they've never been enacted, and they could not be enacted because now they will be committing crimes.
Exactly.
So we had to acquiesce and contract because we came up through their schools. So they knew what they were teaching us. So when we, you know, we come out into the world, we got to get a job. We're not going to study, and we're just going to do what our parents taught us to do. Because I know my grandmother used to always tell me there was only two things she had to do. And because I was one of a child that was always, but why, grandma? Why, grandma?
Mm-hmm.
She would always tell me, Venus, it's only two things I got to do. And that was stay black and die.
Yep, we all remember that.
And so, you know, we just followed along. And now, you know, this is really groundbreaking. But once again, you know, for us to all be here, we were already readers. And that's why we're here. But, you know, now we got to go back and get our salvation through our intel estates. So it was a great lesson, and it was a lot of great input from everyone. And I took notes from everyone. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Honor.
Awesome.
Brother Scott.
Yes, sir. You know, I've been doing a little research over the years about how fraudulent mortgages are, you know, and but it's so much misinformation that it's really hard to narrow it down and really find a remedy. So this lesson, you know, kind of brought that full circle. These two young ladies are always accurate with what they deliver here on these lessons, and I'm learning a lot, you know, from everyone. I don't even know what to say, because listening to it, one minute I'm pissed off, the next minute I'm like, these people can't be that smart. You know what I mean? To have pulled this whole system off over these, I'm amazed.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, how
you
he was able to keep
what I'm
it
saying?
down like this. Yeah, it was the one grand.
So, yeah, it's just, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that we are in the situation that we're in, but thank the heavens for you guys and the King to have come along, because this is going to be a fight. And then a lot of times I'm thinking about the King's safety. This information is dangerous, and you guys kind of know my background a little bit. So this is she said it was daunting. You said it was daunting. This is I don't even know what to say. I'm at a loss of words almost, but I really appreciate this, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm trying to get my mindset right to where I know I have to take it seriously. You know what I mean? And
oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I'm getting the house. Go ahead, Brother Murphy.
We're divinely protected and divinely respected because, you know, my father flew the B-52 bombers. My father dealt with the airspace design. So if you think for one moment they not tracking, listen, I am open to tell the truth. I've talked to the so-called authorities more in the past year than I ever have in my life. Really? So you have to be able to stand on this knowledge. Exactly. And you have to be able to, because you'll have your day in court. You'll have your day to speak your truth. And I assure you that.
Absolutely. Well said, CA. And to camelback what he said, you are divinely protected with this. I've always known it, like the scripture said, not a head on your hair shall perish. Like I said, remember, this is the seal. This is that when it said those who have the mark or my seal, you have the seal. This is the seal of the scriptures we're speaking about, the key role. The key role is the kingdom of God. Remember, so only those who have this press right now are going to be protected as we walk out here into this world of darkness. Thy rod and thy staff shall comfort me. That's your thy rod, thy staff. Remember, so we always have what we need. If you look at the symbol of the so-called United States seal,
Right.
it's actually this. You know what I mean? You just gotta know what you're looking at. They work for us. And that's what we just showed from the 1789 Admiral Maritime Court that's now inside their system. Remember, everything about us is actually codified within their world. Like I said, you just need to know what you're looking at. We're not consumers. So these are the things you have to make sure you do not identify as, even though they may say it. Remember, a consumer is someone who either owes a debt or allegedly owns a debt. We don't allegedly own anything. And like I said, and I'm not a consumer, and I don't know the shit you speaking, excuse my French, that you're saying inside your world, even though it's my language. Like you said, the only thing we really need to stand on is the English history that goes prior before their creation, but just know that what they created is still supposed to be protecting us in lieu of what they're doing. We just need to make sure that what they're doing is not affecting our estate. That's like the king said, they allow you to put something on, it's a fixture up there, but it has to be underneath a specific type of coding. And that code goes all the way back to the Acts of Parliament, when the Acts of Parliament was being passed, letting them know building codes and what they can do and cannot do on the king's land. So they're the ones upholding, like I said, they're upholding the trust. We just not in the proper state of mind to knowing who they're upholding this trust for. Everyone's saying it's their estate. Whose estate? It's only the English estate. It's theirs.
So when we did the title of this lesson, who are the true heirs and successors? I don't know if we've used that title before, but us as English heirs are claiming the heirs and successors to this vast estate. The vast estate is spoken about in the MSTFA, all of us, so everybody knows what the vast estate is. What he said to what the prophet Noble Jesus said, my children, you are just plain rich.
Just plain rich.
See? So when we go over this lesson today, talking about French and Spanish territory, Louisiana, and all of the Americas and all of the English lands over across the water, my children, you are just plain rich.
And I'm glad, and point of interest, another way to saying plain is the earth plane, the land. You're plain rich. The land is yours. You come from the land. Everything that comes from it, whatever, it's always going to be yours as long as you remember who you are and where you come from.
Oh, remember who you are.
So Brother Gray, with the last closing.
Brother Scott wasn't finished.
Oh, was you finished, Brother Scott? Sorry about that.
No, I'm good. I was just listening. Again, I'm taking it all in, my friend, you know.
All right, perfect. All right, Brother Gray.
Oh man, this was a great lesson. And it truly makes you think back to, how even in the Bible it says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And that's the truth. And I think back when I started doing genealogy. When I was a kid, my grandmother used to always tell me that I was the heir, to pass on the gray name. I was the only grandboy in the whole family. So I took it for granted as a child, because you didn't know, you just thought it just meant I was the only boy. But when I started doing my genealogy, going back and finding all this stuff, little did I know it would lead me to this day. And going back to what Sister Walker was saying, she says, stay black and die is the only two things you got to do. Well, if you do stay black, you will die. You have already died. So it's time to resurrect yourself and become an English. That's what you got to be. Not
Amen.
Black, not Indian, So if you stay black, you will die. And we died, that's how we died. We're legally dead right now. Absolutely. And only through your English heirship will you find your way home to be free again. Yeah. Well, I thank you, CA and Archbishop and the King and the sisters, because like I was telling Brother Scott that, I came from a different background than you guys, and sometimes I would feel lost, and at times I was like, man, I need to just stop messing with this, man. I ain't gonna get this. But I'm glad I didn't. I just kept listening. I'm telling everybody out there that's listening, If you only understand one little thing, just grab that and go and just keep listening, and it'll start sinking in a little bit by little. I got a long ways to go, but I'm not going to give up, because the destiny that we have and the things that the King's Bench is doing is worth dying for. I know he said we are divinely protected, but to be able to restore your family name is no greater honor than that. And it's no greater honor to die for that if you have to.
Amen.
Right.
So,
Beautiful, beautiful. And once again, I'm glad that everyone is taking this and seeing how serious it is, because you're not just saving yourself, you're saving a bloodline, not only specific blood, but all of those people who had came and died unattested or with no will or anything. You're literally writing them back in the book of life, because now with your testimony, you can actually put them back into the proper category that they're supposed to be in. Now they're looking, they're the ones who fueling you, they're the ones who protecting you, because like, damn, you actually doing the work to save us, so we can be remembered in time. And that, like I said, how you spoke elegantly, Brother Gray, as you're the only male for your family, you are right now, like I said, it's setting the precedent for any Gray who comes from here on out, because you were the head. You're the head of the household. Just like Brother Scott's the head of the Scott household, because many people are going to try to learn the history of the Scott family and don't realize that the history of the Scott family is going to take you right back to Scotland. And before it was called Scotland, it was called Alba. And when it was called Alba, the very first king of Alba was King who? King Angus. First king was called the King David of the Bible. So you all have that blood in you. The blood of the
Point of interest, Archbishop. The Scott name is also on the 100 rolls, and it's on the Dawes rolls.
Exactly.
Now, remember, what are the chances of it being on both rolls?
On top of the Dred Scott case, remember?
Come on, man.
So you're related. You got to be related to Dred Scott somehow. The fact y'all got the same surname, because genealogy-wise, your family. Genealogy-wise, you'll be traced back to family.
Oh yeah.
Hey, princess.
Oh,
Hey.
she gorgeous. The grandbaby.
Yeah, you got a lot of history to be teaching. A lot of So once again, family, you know, I love y'all. I'm so happy to see everybody here. You know, that the energy after today's lesson, and like the King said, the stuff, the works that we got in, our reality is just about to change, and it's about to skyrocket, because now we got more energy, more heirs. Still, that charge is now fueling the world. And you think they're not watching these videos?
They're watching.
They're watching every last video. They want to see, they seeing how we act as a family again. Because remember, back then, we used to fight with each other. We couldn't even sit amongst the table no more without figuring out, I said, how am I to get over on my cousin? How am I get over on my brother? How am I get my auntie out the picture? We ain't doing that no more. We up here, like I said, we were scattered amongst the world, and we came back together into one house with many different rooms where we all can still be ourselves, but we can do it now with the 5 principles that Prophet Nubu Ali brought. And we live according to those principles, we can't lose. We can't lose. So with that being said, I love y'all. This video is going to be up. Start sharing. The more y'all share, remember, sharing is caring. If we care about our brothers and sisters out here, share these videos, because like I said, you save one, you save many.
And one more thing, and point of interest, these conversations we have, there are so many conversations that people would love for you to entertain, Africa, Islam, and all this, but I assure you, once you start talking to them about this, it's gonna be a whole brain awakening. I'm talking about you're now gonna be the guru. And then you're going to find yourself researching more, because now you got to answer the questions that are coming from your most important peers, your children, your mother. You know, you're the star for your family now with this information.
You're the star of the show now. Remember,
Point of interest. Can I say something real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
My mother called me yesterday morning, and she says, I have a friend, one of her church colleagues. It was her birthday yesterday. She called me. She says, I want to give her her birthday present. And I was like, well, what is it? She said, I wanted to surprise her about her genealogy.
Oh,
So
wow.
can you tell me what her name represents? So I went right on over there to House of Names and I brought it up. And she was like, I want to say it. I want to talk about it in the way that you talk about it. I want to give just the opening presentation on how you presented it to us at my aunt's funeral, because I talked about our genealogy there. So we had several pastors, and my mother is a bishop of her church. So she's right up under the pastor. He was there at the funeral as well. And when I told them about the history of the Allens, a lot of people came up to me after that funeral and they were like, Erica, we need more information like this. And I was blown away. Lady came up here with her notebook and she was like, I want to write down what you said because I have a funeral to go to too. So, you know, it spread like wildfire. After the funeral, at the so-called our little gathering, there was at least 100 people there. Wow. And so many of my family members were just floored by the information that I had brought to them. And they were like, I'm so happy that you brought that up. I never knew that before. The pastor was like, I have some studying to do. So a lot of people are resonating with this information, you know, so I was so humble because I did not really expect the response that I got. But when my mother called me yesterday, that just let me know I'm on the right track. Yes.
Hey, look, point of interest, Alan.
Well said. And as
well said. Hey, look, Sister Allen, like what Jesus spoke to the people, he said, you.
Yeah.
They left.
Yeah, they're left.
These people. I'm sorry, my son's screaming. My son screaming bloody murder while I'm talking. Sorry. Geez. It's something so simple to confound the wise. The most wise people, the teachers and everybody that's out here, the bishops, the preachers and stuff, all of this, and they don't teach this knowledge that we get on the King's Bench. Mm-hmm. So when you bring it to them, it's almost like you confound the wise with the simple truth, that which is their heritage. Mm-hmm. Your last name that was given to you by agnetic succession is your heritage. So that is so special to people because it's like telling somebody their birth chart, how everybody gets off on natal charts and birth charts. Yeah. It's the same, it has the same effect as telling you about yourself. This is the reattachment of the head to the body, like Voltron. So it is something to be proud of. It's something that makes you feel pride. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes you feel good.
And you're helping, actually, you're literally helping. This is the most heroic thing you can do today. The most selfless act you can do today is find out who you are and go back and teach your brothers and sisters who they are. And amen. They want it. They really do. They just don't know how to really ask sometimes. But then someone who do ask, once they figure out how to break that ice, and once they hear from you, they be so floored with the response. Like, I didn't expect it. I was going to get all of that, but thank you. I am so.
And look, and then the second part of it is once they know who they are, now it's like, where's your land? Every bit of every last name has a land that's allotted to us. You know, just like it's like all the name Dan was a lot of the land. You take that abstract story and apply it to our concrete self. You are all, the Scots have land, the Murphys have land, the Walkers, you all have lands out here. Now ask yourself how that land was aggregated into a state. Somewhere, someone was either complicit, made a deal, or you got a family member that's administering a trust that you're not privy to right now. Property cannot own property. So until you get your estate, until you get your status right, you're not privy to the knowledge. Remember, most of that knowledge is held in trust and in secret or sacred to a society. Exactly. They took an oath. So now they got you sharecropping when you should be living off your inheritable land.
Mm. And one more thing, may I say this one last thing? So at the end of the funeral, people were saying, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but this is the greatest funeral that I have ever attended. To hear something like that,
Lord have mercy.
Like, wow.
Wow.
That's what that divine truth. See, that's why I say divinely protected and divine truth. Mm-hmm. Divinely protected and divine truth, because we're not telling no lies. No. We're just exposing the secrets.
Exactly. And once again, and it should never have been a secret. This is supposed to be considered our family stories. That's supposed to go every Sunday, probably Wednesday. When they acting the fool and coming home and forgot who they are, you need to remind them, you must not remember who you are. We're always supposed to be in a state of speaking, communicating to keep the community together, because if there's not no communication, you can't have a community with a common unity. And that's what broke up.
Without common unity.
We're not speaking to each other. We're not holding the dialogues that we need to make us feel like we are family. And just based off of you going to that funeral and being able to share that information, you brought a family together. You bring not only the family, you're bringing all of the so-called 13 tribes together, because people don't realize the 13 tribes is another way to say the 13 colonies and our English history. That's all we're doing. We're, like I said, we're dispelling all of the abstract stories to make it concrete and, like the CA said, make it applicable to our reality today. Anything else, if we can't use it, lose it. If I can't use it, so I'm not going to leave this too much long, because this is still actually the video. So people from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion, pay attention to the testimonies that you heard from your respective brothers and sisters here on the King's Bench, because we tell no lie. This is the only true and right path. And for you to be able to be on the true and right path, you must see your brothers and sisters there accordingly. And if you don't see us, it ain't real.
Hey, look, don't feel bad, Brother Gray, because I watched the King's Bench for 6 months before I joined.
Yeah,
Am I lying, Archbishop?
No, you're not lying.
Tell you the truth.
I as well.
I knew him. Me and Archbishop would talk. I'd be like, all right, yep, for sure.
I was going back researching.
I was yepping for showing him for like 6 months.
Absolutely, and it's take time. You know, like I said, knowledge, information comes to you in degrees. I'd rather you ask me a simple question, or a question you may feel is stupid, because there's no such thing as a stupid question. Ask if you have questions. You know, that's the only way you're going to get the proper response. And I'm not gonna say I know everything. I don't know everything, but trust, believe, I'm gonna go try to look for the answer to give to you. Because nowadays we see that it's really not too hard to find the response or the answer that you're looking for. Especially, you know, if it's genuine, you can find the information. But with that being said, brothers and sisters, we love y'all. We see y'all again next Sunday. This Sunday was a special build, and pretty soon, like I said, we know the doors are going to be banging with people ready to come inside the church after this lesson. So once again, y'all know how to contact us. Please start commenting, leaving responses on the videos to let us know that the information is working for you. And once again, utilize the testimonies from the King's Bench brothers and sisters up here to try to start applying it to your own life and see how it works for you, because chances are you're going to get some type of response in your favor. So we love y'all, and we see y'all again. Peace.
Peace and
love, y'all. Love you all. Peace.